Okay, so always same people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs will be analyzed today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video as I do have a bonus pair in store. But firstly, we'll go through my trade for the week first. We'll break that down really quickly, take a look at the DXY, see what my bias is, and then we'll go through the rest of the pairs. If there is a particular pair you do want to see my analysis to, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. I had one trade this week on Euro Yen, still currently in this trade, which I'm holding over the weekend. Didn't really see too much progression of it. Entered on Wednesday, I believe. No, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Did see some upside, but really the market's struggling as we come into this area here. Haven't gone to break even yet. I'm looking for a little bit more upside, hopefully a breakout of this kind of trend line here. And then that's when I'll start looking to trail my stop loss and go break even. The idea for this is because the yen pairs have had a really big dip as of recent times. I'm looking for that next higher low for the continuation of the trend. They've been very bullish for a very long time. And every time we have seen dips in the market, there have always been retracements, pullbacks for the market to continue bullish. And we've come into a really nice area of confluence. You can see a long-standing trend line there, multiple tests of that trend line, retest the prior height and support. I saw some nice rejection in the 4-hour and the hourly chart. Hopped into the trade, and we're going to see how this progresses. If the yen is going to get weak, we are going to see that continue. If the market wants to have another dip to the downside of a bigger retracement, then I'll be stopped out. But we'll see how that progresses as the week continues. Having a quick look at the DXY, I am still bearish on it. I've talked about some downside for this week. I said I'm expecting dollar to eventually break through this level of support, which it did, but it did quickly recover. So we are seeing some intent from the bears there, but haven't really progressed much since we last spoke, because I believe we were trading around that area on the last weekly analysis. But the bias is still the same, still looking for downside. For me, this is now the next major target in the market, and I'm looking for more downside towards that level. Now I'm looking at two setups. It's either we find resistance, find a lower high at this area, and we roll over, push back to the prior low, and we'll be on our way. Or the market wants to have a bigger pullback. We've got this brief consolidation here, last pullback, lovely support, will be turn resistance over there / supply as well. We could potentially see a bigger pullback. Maybe the market wants to take out some of these weaker lower highs here, test that level, and then see the next, that is an awful drawing, but see the next lower high in continuation. So that's what I'm looking at. Either one of those two areas could be what sends the market bearish, but bearish is the direction I'm looking to trade in. Looking to buy the majors, and of course we'll be looking for weakness against euro, against pound, against Aussie, and we'll go through those pairs in a moment. But that's the idea I have for the DXY, so more downside for dollar. So if you do take a look at euro USD, of course I'm looking for the exact opposite, looking for a move higher. This one did take out this high this week, however we did come straight back in, so the market's finding it really hard to sustain that bullish momentum. However, I still do like this area here as a place to buy. In fact, this is the level I was talking about on the last weekly analysis. I believe we were trading around here. Yeah, but we had that gap in the market. I said if you get pulled back into here, this could be a nice place for a buy. Haven't got that yet, but after we have seen this move here and taken out that high, it does look likely we'll see that bigger pullback. Retest the structure, which is pretty much the same level, which I just touched upon on the DXY. It would be nice if we could see them make the move together. But yeah, from 1.084, that looks like a really nice place for a buy for me. See how price reacts, see what type of price action we can get, and we'll be looking for a push at least back to that high. I do think Euro USD is getting ready for a bigger move, potentially back to this high and eventually this high there, but we'll discuss that at a later date. We're just talking for next week at least. So looking for a retest of this area, 1.08, 400, 500. And looking for buys back into the swing high at 1.09, 400 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So we did see a lot downside this week for the yen pairs, USD JPY in particular, but we did have a pretty big break of this daily trend line, which is not the best sign for the bulls because we have been obeying this trend line for quite a while. Seeing some really nice dips, tests, and continuations. However, price is now broken through for a pretty bearish candle. So although I'm not bearish on USD JPY in the higher time frames, the market's still bullish. This for me is still the recent swing low which gave us that high. So as long as price obeys that, still technically bullish. However, on the lower time frames like the 4 hour and the hourly, it does look like we could probably see another push lower. However, this could just mean the market has one more move down before we have that bigger continuation. The market moves back to the high. But at least for next week, it does look like the market is struggling at this area of confluence here on the 4 hour. So as you can see, price support, multiple wick rejections in that area. We do have this trend line here, first test, second, could be looking at third. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see USD JPY come into this area as it already is, rejects, and actually sees another move down, at least back into the prior low, but potentially back into support here as well. That was our swing low, which gave us the high. Potentially price wants to go and test that before we do see some buyers step back into the market, because we have seen some momentum, but hasn't really amounted to much. This is still where a lot of the momentum lies, at least on the 4 hour chart anyway. Sure, high time frames still displaying a lot of bullish momentum. However, we probably will see another move lower first before we do see that strong momentum kick back in. So if you're looking at some lower time frame counter trend opportunities, I think dollar yen does look good for some shorts, and at least the push to the swing low here around 155, 600, 700 makes a lot of sense to me, and then we can start looking at some buys again. But at the moment in time, rejecting key resistance, can look for some entries early on next week, since we're already at the level from 157, 400, 500, and we can look at some shorts back down to 155, 155, 500 to see if we can find some buys later on. Okay, so on to USD CAD. So USD CAD has not been moving well for quite a while. You can see we're still comfortably inside this range. And again, as I said, for the past few weeks now, I'm not really looking to trade USD CAD whilst we stay inside that range and waiting for price to break out. I've been waiting for a big break to the downside, which is yet to happen. This has been the move I've been interested in. I've been looking for that break to the downside, then looking for the retests and the continuations, but we've just been trading inside that range. So I'm probably going to be skipping USD CAD for next week, because I doubt we will see that move all in one go next week. However, if you're looking to trade USD CAD yourself, you like the fact the market is ranging, you can be looking for some opportunities right at the highs and down at the lows if we get back there. But for now, it looks like we could be seeing a push back to 1.378. We can see some really nice rejections there previously. So there is a good chance if we do get there again, we could see price come in, reject it, and see some downside. You don't have to look for the home run back to the low for it to be a profitable trade, but you have a good shot of catching a nice reaction at that area. So some shorts back at 1.378 look good. Again, not really my type of trade, but I can definitely make sense of it. And if you do see a breakout, you could see a breakout to the upside as well. So if you do see price have a strong break, some retest, there could be some nice buys on the flip side of that same 1.378 level. And we can look at buys maybe back to the high here on the left around 1.383, 384. So with USD CAD, as I said, I'm not really interested in it because it's just a lot of sideways movement. There are better markets out there to trade, and we'll get through some of them in a moment. But if you're looking to trade USD CAD, I'd say a retest of that high or breaking retest of the high looks likely. This is the move I'm still waiting for, but looks like I'm gonna have to be waiting a little while longer. So keep an eye on 1.378. I think that's going to be a pivotal level for USD CAD, depending if we reject or we break out. So keep an eye on that level for some shorts if we retest, or some breakouts for a buy as well. Okay, so moving on to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound had a bearish bias coming into the week, and I still do. Last week I was discussing about this level here, lovely rejection, broke through, never really had a clean retest of the area. So this week I said we might see a pullback to retest that level before seeing some downside, and just before the weekly candle has closed, we did see just about a quick retest and some downside. So I'm still looking at the same opportunity for a move back down to the lows here for Euro Pound, since we are still pretty bearish on the higher time frames. We recently had a nice break and retest of 0.85-ish, which is a really strong level of support, and we have been slowly but surely heading to the downside, and we're starting to pick up some pace as well. So I'm starting to like Euro Pound. It's not the best pair. Still have other pairs which I'm more focused on, but starting to pick up some pace, and I like the fact that we are still breaking lows, and we're doing with some decent momentum as well. So I would say for next week, if you didn't look to hop in the first entry, then maybe a second one, potentially even deeper test of that area. Wouldn't be surprised at that happening next week. for push to the lows. I would also keep an eye out on this area here as well. That could be a nice first target or a partial target or a place to start trading stop loss, but I think that could be an area where euro pound might bounce. So I would keep an eye on 0.84 as a level of potentially partialing out. But well and truly, if the trend's going to continue, I expect us to move back to the low at 0.838 and potentially some more downside as well. So the opportunity still stands as from last week, looking for a test and a rejection of that area. That's effectively where you want to place your entries, and then looking for some continuations back to the prior low for next week. Okay, so moving over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar has come to a very, very nice level. I'm looking for buys for this one. And this is one of the setups I gave out from last week. I was talking about a retest of the high here, which we kind of just missed. And then we broke through pretty swiftly. So there wasn't really much sign that the market was rejecting that area, just the big bearish candle breaking through. However, the second level I gave out, price is starting to slow down there. Haven't really seen a big rejection yet, hence why I haven't entered a trade there for Aussie dollar. So I'm looking for that early next week, but it is in an area where I am anticipating more upside. Again, looking at the daily chart, we've got some really nice bullish structure in our hands, higher highs and higher lows. I'm looking for that next higher low for continuation to the upside, possibly a move back to the high over there. We come back into some structure. I'm looking for at least a bounce, and then we'll see how far we can take it. Of course, there's some structure above us here, so that could be your first target. If price does see a nice bounce, that could be where you want to lock in some gains or trade a stop loss or whatever you want to do at this area, because it could take us back down again. Nothing is, of course, certain in this game, but I would be expecting continuations back to the high if that daily trend does want to continue. So this is kind of where I'll be expecting the trade to end up at. Back around 0.67900. So Aussie dollar very bullish, coming to a really nice level here at 0.66900. Keep a close eye on this level early next week, since we're already trading at that area. Could be seeing some buys London session Monday on Monday. So keep an eye on that. Aussie dollar looking for some buys, really nice level. Let's see if we can hold that, and looking for a push back to the high. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD, I am looking for some buys for this one. We have come back into a really nice area on the daily chart where I do think we can see a bounce from. You can see prior resistance over there, brief consolidation. This is our first time coming back into that area. Really strong breakout to the upside. I'm looking to see if we can form another higher low. We had one over here, a second over there, and potentially we could be seeing a third. So it's a really nice area for a buy and potentially a long-term buy as well. We could make our way back to that high. So I do think we can see a reaction. And for the trade, I'm not necessarily looking for the home run to swing it all the way back to that high. I will be looking for buys in here, but it may just be we catch a buy, move to the upside, price from another lower high, and we come straight back down again. I will be trading stops, so I'll just see how far I can take it. But if this does happen, I'll start to trail stops a bit more aggressively. And if it does look like we're about to roll over, then so be it. But if you do catch a nice breakout, then whoop-de-doo, we could be seeing a really big move higher. What you could be waiting for if you're looking for a safer entry would be a break of structure, so price actually breaks out first, and then you're looking for your pullback shortly afterwards. So a retest of the high, maybe a breaking retest somewhere, essentially looking for that higher low for continuation, because now you've seen the breakout, you've seen the move, now you're looking for that first pullback for price to continue in that direction. Because if we are going to move back to the high, there's a long way to go. You don't necessarily need to get in right at the bottom there, but it's in a nice area, so I will be watching price to see how we react, and we'll be looking for entries in that level. But as I said, I'll be trading stops closely because there's a good chance we could form another lower high and roll back over. So I do want to protect myself against that, but if we do catch a nice breakout, then we could be on for a home run. And of course, if you want to wait for a slightly safer entry, wait for the break of structure first and then get involved, then you will be looking at something like this, a big break of structure first, then looking at some retests of this high, maybe this high, it depends on the break. But that would be a nice opportunity as well. And again, looking for that continuation back to the high there eventually. So that's the plan I have for NZD CAD next week. Keep an eye on the break of structure of 0.83200, but more importantly, keep an eye on 0.82425 where we're trading right now for some buys next week. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So pound NZD, we've been very, very bullish. We've had a really big move to the upside. I was expecting some retracement this week, but the market actually kept its bullishness to a degree and kept moving higher. So what I'm looking at for pound NZD, because I've been saying I'm expecting price to push into that high, and we're very, very close to doing that. So I do expect us probably just to push on early next week, come into that high, and then there could be some really nice selling opportunities. Not really the type of trade I will look for because it is going against a lot of momentum, but I do expect price to have a breather. Pound NZD's had a really big move to the upside, haven't seen much correction of that move, so I do expect us to react at that level. Or if we do have a dip before we do get there, then I will be looking at some buys around 2.12. This is that prior high, clean break, no real retest of that area. So if we do take a dip to the downside before we get there, that would be fantastic. I'll be looking for that higher low for a push to the upside, because I'm still bullish on this one, but it's just if we do push into that level, then the buys kind of become invalid because we're testing that swing high, maybe create a new high as well. So I do need to see that pullback because the market is very, very stretched right now. However, if we do get there first and you're looking for some counter and opportunities, I do like them because the market's really stretched and we're coming to a big, big level. On the daily chart, if we take a look on the left here, really big move to the downside. So it's definitely a strong level and a pivotal level in the market, but for me, I like to go with momentum rather than go against it. So this will always be the opportunity which I always prefer, and I'll always look to trade. So if you can see a pullback, fantastic. I'll be looking at some buys on the low time frames in that area. If we just stay bullish, then keep an eye on 2.15, as we could see some really nice sells and a big rejection to the downside. So depending on what you're looking for, keep an eye out, but I'll just be focusing on this buy opportunity down here if we get there. But that remains my analysis going into next week for pound NZD. Okay, so moving on to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, I am looking for some short-term downside for some long-term buys. I am still pretty bullish on the higher time frames, but I'm looking at the 4 hour and how it's shaping up this week. We've had a strong break of the trend line, and now it's starting to form some lower lows and lower highs, and this move still looks pretty corrective to me, so I do think there's a good chance we will form a lower high and we'll see some downside. If I quickly zoom out to the daily chart, you can see the break there. Lovely long standing trend line. First test over there, second, third, fourth. Was looking for the fifth, but it didn't come into play, and all we got was a massive candle breaking through. So what I am looking for next week for CAD Yen is some downside. We still do have this important low here. This is the swing low which gave us the swing high. So from a structural perspective, I'm still bullish. I need to go and break that for me to be bearish. So what I'm looking for next week is some downside into that area, and then some buys at a later date when we get there. This is a really smart place for a long, since we've respected it a couple times very well. As you can see, nice bounce, really nice bounce. So I do think this is a smart place to position yourself long. Whether we'll see the continuation all the way back to the high, that's a different story. But in terms of a smart place to get long or look for buy opportunities, I think that is definitely a good place for that. So in the meantime, looking for some selling opportunities, counter trend opportunities for CAD Yen at 115, force some sales back down to 113, and hopefully some buys from that level. So that remains the plan for CAD Yen next week. Okay, so over to pound USD. So pound USD, I'm very bullish on this one, and I really do like the setup for next week. We've had a lovely breakout to the upside of all that momentum, and now I'm simply looking for a correction of that for some more upside. We've got the swing high here. This still remains the target I have for pound USD after the big breakout of this range, which we've had throughout the whole year. Price has been ranging in that region, in between those two levels. We finally picked a direction to the upside, and I'm looking for some pullbacks, retesting some structure for price to continue on its way back to that high. So that is the plan on the higher time frames. I've marked out a couple levels. First one being this high over there, just above this level, and then this level here. You can see it better on the daily chart, but basically this big wick here is a second area I'll be looking at. So generally speaking, looking for buys between 1.289 and 1.28. So basically in that region I'll be looking for buys. The important thing is to see how price reacts. I won't just jump in because price is there. I want to see evidence that we're throwing wicks, that we're rejecting, looks like we're forming a higher low before I do take any entries. But generally speaking, these are the areas I'll be looking for that opportunity. And then targets will be back at that high. Of course, I'll be trading stop loss, so hopefully I can really take advantage of the opportunity back to the daily swing point, but we'll see what happens. But at least looking for a move back into the swing high here on the 4 hour around 1.3. So that's kind of what I'm looking for pound USD. Very bullish, expecting more upside, keep an eye on those two levels, and expecting a push back to 1.3 next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound CAD. So pound CAD, I'm looking for buys as well. We have recently come into a massive level here on the weekly chart, so I'm being careful of that. As we can see, massive resistance there. We just spiked into it, so I do expect to see some downside next week for pound CAD. However, we still do have this bullish trend, this momentum on the higher time frames. So I'm still looking for buying opportunities, and we've had a really nice impulsive run there. So I am looking for a pullback of that, and then looking for some higher lows to take advantage of. First area of interest is this high here, lovely resistance. Briefly stalled there as well, strong breakout, haven't had the retest, and this area here as well. Now, because we've come into a big level, I'm not necessarily expecting prices to continue and fly to the moon. I'm looking for a balance where I can trail and take advantage of momentum. It may take us back to the high, we might break through, we might just come 3/4 of the way before coming back down, but I think that there's a good chance we could see another retest of that level. So if you're looking for targets, I would look for a push back to roughly 1.275. This is kind of where I've got that weekly level at. But for now, this is still a really nice place for a buy. And depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for 1-to-1s, 1-to-2s, I think you're at a really nice place. If you're looking for a big swing, I think you're at a nice place as well. However, be careful of that level because it is a big level in the higher time frames and definitely could potentially reverse this bullish trend. So I would be careful of that. But we're definitely coming to areas where buys do make sense. And we've seen a really nice impulsive move. So as long as we get a nice corrective pullback, I do think there is a good chance we do see some nice buys coming to the market and a push to where we came from, back to 1.785, maybe 1.775, sorry, or 1.78 potentially. So that's the plan I have for pound CAD, looking for some retracement. Hopefully you can find a retest, some entries, and then take it back to that high for next week. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen, again, it looks similar to CAD yen and dollar yen. I'm looking for some brief downside for some buys at a later date. If I go to the daily time frame, I've got a really nice area of confidence here, similar to my euro yen setup. Lovely resistance here, support, well, hopefully we're at the support now. We've got this long-term trend line here on the daily chart, first test, second, looking for the third one. However, it does look like we're going through that kind of corrective pullback. We've seen some downside over the past week or two, and now we're forming some lower highs as well. So I'm looking for pound yen to retest this level, see some downside, and then some buys at a later date. So it depends what you're after. If you're looking for those shorter term counter trend moves, I mean, I say shorter term, but if you do see a move from that level, we are still looking about 300 pips. I forget how much price has rallied for pound yen, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big move. It's short term because I expect price to go high, so that's why I'm saying short term, but it's still a meaningful move. 300 pip back down to that level is a pretty big move in the market, even for a swing. So but short term in the regard that I do expect it to be short term, and I do expect that trend to eventually kick back into action and continue. So buys do look good around 201, 200, 500, 200.5, so around this area here. But in the meantime, some sells do look good as well. So let's see if we can get another test, reject that area, and some sells at least back to the low, and then maybe if we're lucky back down to that area there too, and then we can start looking for some buys later on. So that is the plan I have for next week for pound yen. Okay, so over to gold. So gold, I'm looking for buys. I'm still very bullish on gold. However, I do not like how the weekly candle has closed for gold. Did not mean to do that. It does look like we have seen a big rejection at the high, and basically the market is still stuck in this consolidation. So I do think we'll see some more downside. However, I do think it would just be a high low for price to push on. So I do think we will see at least price push into this first area here, which will be my first area of interest. So around 23.87, basically the high there. I'll look to see how we react if things don't look good. I'll look at the second area, same thing, if things don't look good. I've got my third area down there, but that's basically where the Fibonacci starts to come into play as well. If I draw it from the swing low to the swing high, you can see we've got the 50% more or less at that area, 0.618 there, 0.786 there. So looking at these areas for some buys, because I'm still very bullish on gold. We've created the higher high, but I just think we're going through that correction. So hopefully we kind of relax a little bit, because we came in with a lot of momentum there, which I'm not a big fan of. So hopefully we slow down. Let's see what we do at that first level. Maybe there's some short-term buys, maybe we sell off again. I'll be trailing my stops anyway, but these are the areas I will be looking at for buys for gold to take it right back to where we came from, which would be 2480 up there. I do think we can get to 2500, which is a big psychological level. So I do think price will eventually be drawn to that level as well. But for now, still very bullish on gold. But yeah, some unexpected moves this week for gold and for silver as well. Still bullish on both currencies, and I'm pretty bearish on the USD as well. So if that bias comes to life as well, then that should help out gold. Moving higher. So there is confluence there and correlation behind it. Just need to find some good entries, some good trading opportunities, and then we can see how things get on. But I am looking for another swing back to the high next week for gold. Okay, so moving on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, we've seen a nice bounce and a really nice rally from the lower end of that descending channel. You had a really nice impulse in the market there, and I'm looking at this as a kind of a big bull flag, a big correction for the market to be on its way. So in terms of trading opportunities, it depends what price does at the high, because if we do push into the high, start rejecting it like we did earlier over there, then there's a good chance we sell off again. So sells do look good up there if we do see some nice rejection like we did last time. However, if we do see price break out, let's say 70k, then you're looking at pullbacks to ride that to the upside. If we do come back down, then of course this is a nice area for a buy as well. If we double bottom out, I think that's a nice level. We're pretty far away, so can keep this at the back of our minds for now. But the real thing is to see what we do at the 70k area. Do we hold or do we break out? And depending on what we do, it will make my decision up in terms of, okay, I think we're in a big bull run now, or I think the market is about to probably have a big meltdown. Because if we do fail at the high, that's a really big red flag, because with all this momentum, we should be on our way with this next move. And if we're not, I think we're coming straight back down, and maybe even have a breakout as well. So if you're looking at areas of value to position yourself long or short, longs look good back down at 56k or break and retest of 70k. If you're looking for a sell, then as we approach the upper trend line of this descending channel, look for some rejection, and you could be looking for a big swing back to the low. So that's kind of how I'll be looking to play Bitcoin. Not really looking to trade it, but if we do see a breakout, I think we'll be on our next rally. So that remains the plan next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is NZD CHF. So we've seen a lot of momentum over the past week. You can see really strong bearish candle closure this week, and it does look like price is slowly making its way back to the prior low. NZD CHF has been bearish for quite some time, really nice bearish trend, and it looks like price has just printed in its next lower high in this bearish sequence. So the plan for NZD CHF is just looking for more downside and opportunities on some pullbacks. I do like this low over here, really nice swing low, price had a pullback, broke through great momentum, and doesn't look like we've really had a retest of that area. So if we do see some pullback next week to retest that, I do think that would be a really nice place to catch that next lower high and ride that momentum back to the lows. Of course, there is obstacles in our way, so don't expect us to get there in one move, but I think at least the push back to the prior low, say if we pull back from here, that would make a lot of sense. Maybe further if you want to trail stops, that'll be up to you. But what I'm looking for NZD CHF is that next lower high. That to me looks very likely, since we've got the higher time frames on our side as well. Just need to wait for that pullback to come into life. Really nice support level there, hasn't got the retest yet. A lot of bearish momentum in the market, so I do think there's a good chance we get that bounce. So keep an eye on 0.54 as a place for selling opportunities, and hopefully we can take it back to the prior low. But that remains the opportunity on NZD CHF, which I'll be looking at next week. And that does bring us to the end of the video, guys. If you have found it useful, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. It really does help out the channel, of course. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Comment down below any pairs you're looking at for next week. I'm interested to find out, but I do really appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.